Okay, so today is the 450th yard site of the Rebbe of the Arizal, of Moshe Kadavero, the Ramak. And we're going to try and spend the next 45 minutes, maybe a bit more, a bit less. We'll try and spend it and go through a little bit his life story, his history, his shitta, and where it fits, how you find the sefer, the Pardes Rimonim Be'ikr, you find in Chassidus, and a little bit there's differences. Machlokes in him and the Arizal, and Chassidus' approach to the Torah of the Ramak, and all around to try and get through the Ramak and his Torah, etc. So the Ramak was born in the year Reish Pei Beis, in the year 1556. And the year, yeah, and we're not sure where he was born. But we do know that already as a young child, he made his way to Tzfas, Teretz Yisrael. Now, we also know that he was Meshtayich. The shul, the kehillah he grew up with in Tzfas, was, as a child, is where his father davened, where he davened, where they were, their kehillah was the Svardische kehillah, the Yotzei Sfarad, the Mgurshei Sfarad. Be'etzem he was, I'm sorry, I said 1550, it would be much earlier than that, 1522, yeah? Reish basis 1522. So it was mamash very shortly after Girush Sfarad. It was very shortly after they were expelled. The Yidden were expelled from Spain. Whether he was some of them, whether he wasn't. Some people want to say that he was born in Cordoba, because his name is Cordovero. It could be. There's no other. There isn't that much known about his life, so there isn't that much. It's possible. On the other hand, he wrote his name. He pronounced his name Cordovero, and it means somebody who makes rope. Whatever. But he was certainly meshtayich in the kehillah of Sfarad, of Sfardim, of people of the Spanish, and he learned as a young child. He was already, as they say, a child prodigy. He was already extremely smart as a child, and as a young child, as a bacher, he went to learn by his Rebbe, his teachers. His Rosh Hashiva, his Magichir, was Rabbi Yosef Cairo, who lived in Tzfas at the time, was a Rav in Tzfas, and lived in Tzfas. Now, Rabbi Yosef Cairo was also a Makubal. But the Ramak didn't learn Kabbalah from him. The Ramak learned from him Nigla, Gemara, Halacha. He got to learn Beis Yosef with Beis Yosef himself. He learned by the Ramak. He learned by Rabbi Yosef Cairo. Now, at the age of 18, he marries the sister of Reb Shlomo Alkabetz, and he begins to learn Kabbalah with Reb Shlomo Alkabetz. I'm not sure if he begins to learn Kabbalah first and then marries a sister, or the other way around, but he's opened up to Kabbalah by Reb Shlomo Alkabetz. Now, the way he learns Kabbalah is like most people in one way, and like very select group of people in another way. We have to understand that time in Tzfas, first of all, Tzfas is a very interesting place. That time Tzfas was a mamash and Iribim Yisrael. Tzfas there was a city, there was a group of Talmidei Chachamim in Yerushalayim. There was a kfutz of Yidden in Yerushalayim, but the main Jewish city, the main city where the Yidden lived, at the time was in Tzfas, it doesn't really have much of a rational reason. At the time, it was a major city of commerce, but it's not near an ocean. It's on a mountain. So why that punkt became the city of commerce is interesting. But it was a very, very big, bustling, happening city, and that's where Yiddishkeit was. To the extent that there was a major machlokes at this time. The Ramak was given smicha by Maribei Rab. Now, could be that like this: when Moshe Rabbeinu gave smicha to Yeshua, and then there was this Canaan, everybody got smicha. Ish mi pi ish from Moshe Rabbeinu. At some point, it stopped. I'm not exactly sure when it stopped. It's not that simple when it stopped. But at some point during during Golison, at some point, the concept of smicha ish mipi ish stopped. Rabbi Rav says they were living in Eretz Yisrael. It's a whole arichas for another time, but just bekitzer. We will Hashem have a separate shir on this concept at some point. But Rabbi Rav says we're here in Eretz Yisrael, and mamash there's everything here. There's Yidden tzaddikim olam and Mekobolim and Talmid Chachamim, and we should reinstitute smicha. We could paskin that we could reinstitute smicha. The maila was, if you had smichas, you can have a Sanhedrin, you can have a basin, a proper basin. If you can have a proper basin, you give malchus. You could. There are certain things you could do if you have smicha. And he offered smicha to a group of people. One of them, Rabbi Rav, one of them seems to be, in the Sfarim it says it's the Ramak. He was only 14 years old at the time of this whole story, so it could be that there's a shibush, but anyway, just to understand who he was. The whole thing fell apart because Yerushalayim, they said that it's very nice at Tzfas as the poil kimitzi and Teitzei Torah. Yerushalayim is where they have to make these decisions, despite the fact that the bulk of the Talmid Chacham, the serious Talmid Chacham, the bulk of them all lived in Eretz Yisrael at the time, in Tzfas at the time. Okay, whatever the case is, the Ramak is begins to learn. This is at the age of 14. At the age of 18, he gets married and he begins to learn Kabbalah. It seems at about the age of 20, he begins to learn Kabbalah. How does he learn? Takes a Zoyar together with Rabbi Shlomo Alkabetz, and they begin to learn. Al derech understanding. So they learn it and they discuss it and they analyze it and they pilpul sich and they come to a maskana. They come to an understanding of what this means. And then the next one. At some point, they begin not only to understand things that are printed already, that they already have access to, al napi seichel, they begin to go out to the fields around Tzfas. Tzfas was a built-up city at the time, but Tzfas is on a mountain. And around Tzfas, there was fields. I'm not sure exactly fields, probably a bit on a slant, but there was a lot of walks, a lot of places to go out and to walk. And they begin to go on walks. They begin to go outside. Similar to what you had in Europe, Pravin Golos. They went out and they would go out of the towns. So in Europe, you could go for 2 weeks, for 2 years, for 20 years. You could travel. In Eretz Yisrael, everything's a bit smaller. And from Tzfas, they didn't go out for weeks and weeks and weeks at a time, but they would go out to the fields and they would. And over there, the objective was they would learn over there and they would a bit, but the objective was actually to take their minds away from their seichel, to try and clear their minds in a way, and they would get hashros. They would suddenly get an understanding, suddenly get a knowledge that they didn't know until then, like a type of nevuah, not nevuah, but as an understanding. Suddenly, they weren't thinking about it. It's not that they analyzed things outside in the clear air. They went out, the malachim talked to them. The malachim didn't talk to them. They got those ideas in their minds and they analyzed those afterwards. But the idea came as from Himmel. Came as from Himmel. And they didn't just go out to the fields like this. They would also go be mishateach on kvarim. They would walk around. More than that, by the way, they found kvarim. They would walk and they would be able to sense who was where. And sometimes it was a ruach of a tzaddik who was buried at that location that was giving them the information of knowledge. So the Ramak knows his Kabbalah from 2 places. Reish is called from Kabbalah. Kabbalah means receiving. Yeah, you can't learn Kabbalah on your own. You can't open a sefer and learn it on your own. It has to be received. Which is why even in Chassidus we don't make up a Roma Shalom. There has to be something that comes over. So the Ramak. So he's being makabel from Rabbi Shlomo Alkabetz based on the knowledge, based on the Sfarim, the learning. He's also being makabel on his own Hashros Mumayla. So they went. If you look in the Kisvei, if you look, there's in another places, even in the Kisvei Arizal, even from Chaim Vital, he tells a different place. They went to. He writes. They went to Rabbi Yossi, and they went to Shivay Chai, and they went to Miron, obviously, and they went to Rabbi Yehuda. The reason why a lot of Mekubalim went to Tzfas is because it was right next to Miron, and therefore they could go a lot to Rashbi, and they could be Mekabel Ashros. Rashbi could teach them certain inyanim in Kabbalah. So. Okay, this is the Ramak. This is the Ramak. These groups grew. He didn't just go by himself. He didn't just go by himself with Rabbi Shlomo Alkabetz. Eventually, by the way, he becomes Rabbi Shlomo Alkabetz's Rebbe. Eventually, it seems that the Ashros and the Havonas that he has are so great that he ends up becoming the Rebbe of the Mekabalim at the time. He's joined by his Talmud, Rabbi Eliyahu Vidash, and a lot of other ones. I mentioned Rabbi Eliyahu Vidash because if you look in the Shara Gugulim from the Chaim Vital, he goes through whose neshama was the Ramak. So he writes that he was from Chayob and Yoyoda, and it was from Eliezer Eved Avram, Shmaya. Interestingly, one of the Kvorim they Taka went to, it says they went a lot. They went to Gush Chalav. Gush Chalav. The way it was printed, the way it where it is in Eretz Yisrael, and over there is buried Taka Shmaya V'Aftali, and they went over there to the Kvorim. Okay. I mentioned Eliyahu Vidash because the Arizal writes that the reason why the Eliyahu Vidash liked so much the Ramak is because they came from the same neshama. They also came from Eliezer Eved Avram and from Chayob ben Yoyoda. Anyway, the Ramak ends up, so he has these yidiyas that he gains on Maila, and he has the Havonis that he's trying to understand from this printed, whether they're printed or whether they're manuscript, but from the Svarim that he has. And he describes himself. He begins to say he writes by himself that as I was starting to analyze, as I was starting to learn all these things, it's extremely confusing. There's so much going on. And therefore, he begins to write the Ramak. He's not the first, by the way. I should mention he's not the first. But he's the first that did it so comprehensively and so systematically. He systemizes Kabbalah, if we could use those words. He takes everything and makes it into a system. He builds it. He starts he goes through one thing and then another thing and then another thing. And the Paradis Rimoinim, for example, let's take that sefer, known as which Alter Rebbe calls the Paradis Maramak. Alter Rebbe calls in Tani, if you take the Paradis Rimoinim, that's what he does. He takes it in Lamed Beis Sha'orim, in 32 Sha'orim. He takes the entire Kabbalah, this is what he has, and he's Mesader it. He makes a Seder. If you look in the Kisvei Arizal, if you look in the Chaim Vital, so it's a speech more, it's a discussion. It's a shira b'makom echad, ani b'makom echad, and a shira b'makom acher to an extreme. There's two words in one place, and then he goes on to the next subject, and then in another sefer, he discusses that point exactly. It's more of the way it was discussed, so it's kind of writing down the Torah the way it is. Yeah, you can write down, somebody gives a series of shiurim, or somebody says b'chal Torahs. Yeah, you can have all the Rebbe's Torah on one nekuda, and you can either have it randomized, says all the ones on one nekuda, you put it in, you say the Rashanim, let's say, or you can mamish, so you can either have Sichas Kodesh, let's say, which is or Torahs Menachem, or the Sadoy says, where you can have when the Rebbe said it, the way the Rebbe said it, and built like that, and then you mamish need Rabbi Zelikson's Mafteach to find whatever it is that you need, or you can have all the subject matter in one thing, and the Ramak went even further. So the Kitzur Arizal would be similar to Sichas Kodesh, or similar to Torahs Menachem, to the Sadoyas, and the Ramak is not only he took all the places where it discussed it and put it together. No, he systemized it. He took it and he could be the Rebbe spoke one sikh in Tavshin Nun and another sikh in Tavshin Yud Aleph, but the one in Tavshin Nun goes first, the one in Tavshin Yud Aleph goes second. So you do it that way, and then okay. So he mamish systemized Kabbalah. This is what he does. He does it on a Pirush in the Zohar. He writes a Pirush in the Zohar that today is in the new editions is 23 halakim. He's nostalgic, by the way. He's only 48, and he writes more than 30 svarim. Most of them are not printed in his lifetime, but he writes more than 38. He writes more than 30 svarim in that short amount of time. He only starts learning Kabbalah when he's 20, 18, 20. Anyway, he writes in the Paradis. He systemizes it. He also, we were talking before how they went out to the fields. He has a sefer called Sefer HaGerushim, and that's where he discusses everything that he gained on these going out into the field, everything that he got, these ashros, mumayla that he got. That's where he writes them there, and he again systemizes it. The sefer on Kabbalah, it's systemized. The sefer on Zohar, it's systemized. It goes through the inyanim mesudir. He then goes before the Arizal says mitzvah legala sois achachma. He himself writes a whole sefer on how to be megale, on not only how to be. He starts off like this: the nechitzes of limud for somebody who's shaychted. Right, somebody who's shaychted. The importance of learning Kabbalah. If you're able to learn Kabbalah, you have to. And he goes, first chapter is writing that if you're capable of it, you should. Second chapter starts to explain Kabbalah, and he goes through again, step by step by step, exactly the way it is. He has, interestingly, in some of his Svarim, he has some things that are printed there that you don't, some quotes from Zohar that you didn't have in all the editions of the Zohar. Okay, anyway. So we've so far mentioned two things, that his derech halimud, he himself learned in two ways. Number one was chkira lekis, godly chkira. Took a safe and tried to understand it, like we do with chassidus, try to understand the nekudah. And the other thing was Ashra. Now, his Seder Halimut, his Seder of writing, is not Sikumim. It's not like he takes out, like Sfarim, other things, and he inside them. No. He also has, his approach is also okay, so his approach is systematic, point number one. Point number two is his whole derech, his whole approach is also to understand clearly the nekudah. Now you can have a halacha. And the halacha is, I don't know, let's use something that's just going on in London at this time. You can have a halacha, and the halacha is that let's say you can't carry, that you're allowed to carry in the following streets on Shabbos. Why are you allowed to carry in the following streets on Shabbos? Because suddenly there's something called an Eruv Purab. Yeah, and go in London, there's now a big shaila, whether you're allowed to, whether you're not allowed to. Obviously, in Lubavitch, we don't. But I don't live there anyway, but so it doesn't make a difference. But to me, okay, you're allowed to, why are you allowed to carry? I can't explain. Yeah, you can have somebody that says, no, halacha is allowed to. Then you can have somebody that's going to explain the whole reason why yes. So then the person that's carrying understands the halachas of Eruv. Or you can say, I don't carry in the Eruv. Why don't you carry? I don't know. So is the Rav said. I know the Rav said. Doesn't work with the Alter Rebbe. Finished. Can't carry in the Eruv. Then, okay. But what happens if you understand why you can't carry in the Eruv? Yeah. So then it's a whole different not carrying in the Eruv. Same thing with the Ramak. Says in all this way, it's an halacha b'chlal, yeah? Torah b'chlal. It's verstehen. So the Ramak doesn't just write the nekudah. Doesn't say Eser Sviris. He brings all the shittas and he analyzes them and he discusses them. And then he, like a pilpul. He goes through back and forth and this and that, and then he makes a maskana. And he paskins. So even though the etzem, there's no pilpulim, there's no kasha and teretz in Kabbalah, in Soid. There's no kasha and teretz, says this, but it's not built that way. But he analyzes if there's a machloikis, if there's a seeming machloikis between two people, between two shittas. So he goes through all the svaris lakan, tries to sort it out. In Zvenzach Fumeret, and then he and sometimes he paskins on his own. Okay, that is more or less the Sfarim, to the extent that's the Sfarim of the Rama. Now, he also writes a sefer, and this is where he is mamash. He's the first one to do this. I think. Might be wrong. If I'm wrong, please write to me and let me know. He writes a sefer called Toimer Dvoire, and that is the first Musa sefer of Kabbalah. Meaning, in addition, you understand, his shitta is that he's talking to Amoinam. If you're shaykh to understand this, you shaykh to understand it. So, in addition to making a system, to making a seder, so you could learn it and understand it, it's more accessible to understand. In addition to that, he also he explains in Avodas Adams. Not every sefer will be for every person, kind of, if you want. In Toimer Dvoire, he explains how to act in the Eibishter's way. He bases it on the fact you have to go in the Eibishter's ways. I'm not going through now to explain the whole Toimet Voida, but he basically takes the Yud Gimel Midas HaRachamim, and he explains, based on the Eibishter's Yud Gimel Midas HaRachamim, how we should work. Use one example. Let's say, for example, let's say the first one. So he says that the Eibishter he says that Rachamim comes first. Rachamim is the beginning of everything. Why? Because the highest, says the first term of the Eibishter is a Melech Olov, an insulted king. Why is he insulted? Because here the Eibishter is creating you, and he's giving you every second, he's giving you a chayis, and you go and take that chayis and do an Aveira. The first thing the Eibishter should do is say, forget it, you're not worth it. But he doesn't say that. He nevertheless continues to create you and continues to let the world go, and he forgives very quickly. So he allows himself to be insulted. So just like the Eibishter, just give me one example. Just like the Eibishter has a lot of patience and is willing to overlook a lot of things, so do you should. I'm giving one example of he takes Yud Gimel Midas HaRachamim and he explains it how you should live your life. Okay, we have over here quite clear, and I think we have over here quite clear the Mahalach of the Ramak, and not only in Kabbalah, but he uses Kabbalah in a sprach of Bnei Adam, in Avodah, in Avodah, in this Sefer and Toimet Voida. So he's accessible to everybody, even at the time, and he becomes the Rebbe. The Ramak becomes the Rebbe of the Mekobalim at the time in Eretz Yisrael. And so this group that goes to the fields, it grows. At that time they make Kabbalah Shabbos. Alter Rebbe writes in the Torah that Kabbalah Shabbos is built based on Torah Ramak. It's Kabbalah Shabbos and Sailach Hadoidi. It's built on the system, on the Seder of the Ramak, of the Kabbalah Ramak. At the age of, when the Ramak is 47 or 48, the Arizal comes up from Mitzrayim. The Arizal was born in Eretz Yisrael. When he moved to Mitzrayim, when he was 8 years old, his father was Nifti, had an uncle that lived in Mitzrayim that supported his mother, and therefore him, and he lived there for a very long time, and he came to Eretz Yisrael. I think the Arizal was in Tzfas, the whole Arizal in Tzfas was 2 years. And he came still b'chayev of the Ramak. And the Ramak, he learned by the Ramak, he learned from the Ramak. He wasn't Makabal everything, because at the time he had known more, we'll see soon, but he learned by the Ramak. After the Istalkus, the Ramak, he gave a hesped. The Ramak, the Ramak, Chov Gimel Tammuz, the Chov Gimel Tammuz, the Ramak is nostalgic. There's two people maspid. One is the Beis Yosef. And the other one is the Arizal. And the Arizal says, he quotes a pasuk, and v'salisa oisay al eitz. He says, v'hoya im. No, what's the pasuk? V'hoya im. No, I have to remember the lashon of the pasuk. Then v'salisa oisay al eitz. You're going to hang him on a tree. He says that there's some people. He says that some people have to. I don't know whatever. Okay, but there's no. I'm sorry, it's there tonight. The kids, there's some people that they're not nostalgic from their own averis. They're only nostalgic be'iter shel nachash. That's what they're nostalgic because of. In other words, says Arizal that the Ramak was nostalgic. The Ramak was a tzaddik, a soidoilam, a tzaddik that was never ever did an avera, and he was one of those people that was only mace be'iter. There was only mace be'iter shel nachash. But after the Levaya, the Arizal commented to somebody that he saw an Amudah Shel Eish. He saw a pillar of fire. It was a Shaila where to bury the Ramak. Where exactly in the Beis Olam Mitzvah should they bury him? And the Arizal pointed to where they should go because he saw a fire going in front of the mitter and behind, and the fire stopped at that place. I'm trying to remember which one of the Talmidim of the Ramak. The Ramak had told him, the Arizal didn't know this. The Ramak had told him that whoever sees a fire, he's going to be the next one. Which is interesting because Arizal had just come. Arizal was a very young man, and there was some other. There was the Yosef Cairo who had a maggid that taught him things, and that's doch. Reb Chaim Vital at the time. Reb Chaim Vital didn't want to come to the Arizal. It took the Arizal a long time. Reb Chaim Vital to come over to him. Because the Arizal was very young, he had just come. But the Poyol, the Arizal took over this kfutza of Mekubal. Now, there is a big machloikis. There's a very big difference. There are big differences between the Ramak and the Arizal. Now, Chassidus, Torah's Chassidus, is based on the Torah of the Arizal. The Reb Chaim Vital writes, he goes through different Kabbalah from the beginning of time, but then he says that after the Ramban, it's all learning from the old, and it's either yes, correct, or English. It's either richtige pshat or not. And they say it's no point learning from after the Ramban until the Arizal, and there's no point learning from the Arizal, and then from the Arizal on, the Arizal was all encompassing, and it took it so deep that that's where it stays. Reb Chaim Vital learned by the Ramak. So there's a shaila b'chlal if it refers when Reb Chaim Vital says not to learn the Mekubalim between the Ramban and the Moshe and the Ramak and the Arizal, the shaila whether he means the thing, but he brings the Ramak a lot. He brings the Ramak in a couple of places. In Kisveri, he brings the Ramak. Reb Chaim Vital. So it's not, but point being that there is a big machloikis in a number of different places. But the yisoid of the machloikis is, and to be maktim, the yisoid of the machloikis is that the Rebbe Tzemach Tzedek writes that the Ramak lo yoda me'inyan tzimtzum. The Ramak did not know about Tzimtzum. We are in the middle of a series about going through this is a one-off this year because the Ramak's yard site, but we're in the middle of the series now of Shittas Chabad, and we're mamash holding now by Ishtalshlus of Chassidus. And Mitzvah Hashem, in the next few weeks, we'll see that there's nizgale as things go on. There's nizgale more and more to even to some of the tzaddikim at the time. There's more and more things that are nizgale, that are revealed to as time goes on, as we come closer to Yemei Mashiach. So there is there's a gilui process. So the nekuda of tzimtzum wasn't nizgale, wasn't revealed to the Ramak. It was revealed to the Arizal. So the Ramak lo yoda minyan tzimtzum. Once we have that foundation, that there's a major difference. There's a major difference. The difference is, let's boil it down like this. The Ramak, as far as the Ramak is talking, you have the Eibishter. And then what happens? And then there's Hishtalshlus. But there was never a tzimtzum, which means there was never a time of full concealment. If you want to, we'll address this again at a later stage. If you want to, the first shir that we had on Shittas Chabad, we went through a little bit the tzimtzum she'eino kipshut, the tzimtzum eino kipshutei, the yisoid, that everything is really a concealment. But there was this nakuda. According to Ramak, he doesn't know of this concealment. So as far as how do you have a world if everything is the Eibishter? He says that as the shtalshlos goes on and on and on and on, as it continues to go further and further, so at every level it becomes more megushim. It's able to become more megushim, and therefore it's able to. This is what's going to happen at some point. At some point, if you keep going, if you take Ein Sof and you keep going, if you take a likos, a lekap, take the Eibishter, you keep going down. At some point, it's going to become aval. Okay, it's not something that we're going to obviously address in 4 minutes how that could work. It's not something we're going to address. I'm just trying to give the overview. The Arizal, being that the Arizal does talk about Tzimtzum, so as far as the Arizal is talking, there's a big difference in Oidus and Kalim. Now, so let's say like this. He doesn't talk about Tzimtzum. Yeah, the Ramak doesn't know about Tzimtzum. So as far as the Ramak is concerned, what's Chochmah? What are the Spheres? The Spheres are Kalim through, what are Spheres? Spheres are, as Tzimtzum goes on, by the way, let me mention, there was people that were extremely against the Ramak. Because there was people that felt, that understood from him, if there's no Tzimtzum, he doesn't talk about Tzimtzum. So if according to him, everything is just as things go along, they just become more and more Megushim, means that this Eser Spheres, the focus he puts on Eser Spheres, is you're saying it's the Eibishter himself. You're saying the Eser Spheres are Elika, are the Eibishter. You can't say such a thing. So but the Ramak, it's not, that's not the Pshat in the Ramak. The Pshat in the Ramak is that the Eser Spheres are they're not that as things go on, there is the Eibush, there are certain Mosach, certain concealment, not concealment, but certain there's spheres, and the Eibush, the Elikus, it's the Eibush, shine, Ein Soif, shines through spheres, and then they take on a certain form to the level lower to the eye that sees them. Understand? I hope this is making sense. That means let me back up a second. Let me back up 1 second. The Moshe Rubin, Oliver Shalom from Montreal. So he used to say, he used to have a marshal. He used to say like this. He doesn't understand. You learn this, and then you learn one nakuda. And then he asks the question, how could you say this if it says somewhere else that it's that? So what did he say? Right? So no, but Etzem is the third level. And then this level, yeah, that's so. As they say, the mashpia that was saying, so he gave a shir, and so Bacha asked the question. So you have these Bachrim that, I'm going to give the mashpia time. So the mashpia gives a shir, he says an Indian, and the Bachir says, and the mashpia asks, no, so how could the Rebbe Rashab say that it's this darge? If 3 days ago we learned it's that darge. So another Bacha pipes up. It depends what you're talking about. Yeah, the easiest. So Mashpia tells him, it's not an answer. It's not an answer. It's an excuse. Understand. What's Rebbe Rashab? If the Rebbe Rashab said it's this yesterday, and today he says it's this, so okay. A few weeks later, they're learning in Shir, Nabacha asks, how could the Rebbe say this if we learned last week that it's that? So Mashpia says, it's Venzich Bumeret. Bacha says, hey, 1 second. The one on the Bacha says, hey, 1 second. You said a few weeks ago that it's Venzich Bumeret Nishkeneffer. You can't say it's Venzich Bumeret. So she says, it's Venzich Bumeret, right? Depends what you're talking about. Not that, it's like this. And anyway, what do you mean it's what does this mean? Depends what you're talking about. So what happens? It's very simple. Imagine a person, it's not a person that can never see. So Moshe Rubin used to give a marshal. Imagine a person that can never see. So he goes to take him outside for the first time, and he feels under his feet. He feels that it's hard. So he says, "What am I stepping on? What is this?" He'll tell him it's concrete. Oh, okay. So he knows that outside is hard. 2 minutes later, he feels a splash. Hey, 1 second. I thought it's supposed to be hard. It rained. When it rains, there's a puddle sometimes. You just walk into a puddle. Underneath that water, it's still hard. Oh, okay. Then 2 minutes later, he walks. He feels it's soft. What's it does? And it's now you're walking on grass. So the ground is hard. Is hard or soft? If there's concrete, it's hard, and if there's grass, it's soft. Oh, a little bit later, he's talking, and suddenly he feels it was hot before, and suddenly there's a shade. What's going on? He's standing under a tree. What's a tree? In the ground, out of the ground, there grows a big stick. So 1 second, the ground's not flat. No, the ground is flat. But out of the ground grows a big stick. And from the stick grows leaves, twigs, branches, and then twigs and leaves. And you're standing under the leaves, and now so the person that's never seen the world, try and explain the world to them. There's a bunch of stealers. And you have to explain how, no, you're looking at it at one's very low level. Continue on, you'll see it at a deeper level, Point being that when the Ramak is saying something and the Arizal is saying something else, it's not chas v'shalom. It's not that the Ramak is that says you're talking a fact. We're talking about spheres, it says levels that theoretically, if you're an ish ruchni, you could see them. Theoretically, again, refer back to the shiurim that we had on this nakud of tzimtzum. But if you be able to see properly, If you'd be able to, if you were spiritual, you'd be able to see these things. The Ramak is not saying what he understood pshat. He's saying what he understood, what he got from, and even if he's saying understood pshat, the Ramak's pshat understood pshat is richtige pshat. But he's also saying from what he heard, for the hashros that he got from when he did his gerushin, when he praved his golos. So it's important to point out that there's a machloikus. When we say machloikus between the Arizal and the Ramak, first of all, it's not a machloikus. The Ramak is talking at one level. He's looking at things after Tzimtzum, or before Tzimtzum better, we should say. He's looking at things in one way, and the Arizal is looking at things another way. Now, not every stira between the Arizal and the Ramak are for emphasis. They're not. We can't make them up ourselves. Not everyone is. But the point is, once we have that yisoid, we have that klal, we understand more or less what's the nakuda of it. So again, the Ramak lo yodamin na tzimtzum. By the way, it says so you have the Ramak learned the Indian. The Ramak lo yodamin na tzimtzum, and therefore the Ramak says a lot of different things that seem to be bestira to the Arizal, but it's not. It's not bestira to the Arizal, or it's not bestira, or it is bestira, but it's not. It's discussing at a certain level koydem atzimtzum the Ramak would have to be talking about. Yeah. So the Marshal Alter Rebbe says that the Ramak is talking mo'elam atoyu, and the Arizal is talking mo'elam atikun. Interestingly, the Rebbe Marash says that the Ramak lo yodamin na toyu, because toyu can only exist. Toyu can only exist if there's a difference in toyu and tikkun. If there's no tzimtzum, there's no difference in toyu and tikkun. It's all one big elokus. Yeah, it's all one big eibishter. So it's just a question of Hishtalshalos being able to be megashim, not a perception is gashmos, but a reality. So it's not okay. So according to that says so the Rebbe explains that it's not that Layoda, that's not that the Ramak talked in Toyu and the Arizal talked in Tikkun, because the Rebbe Marash says not. It means that the Ramak talked in Toyu Shebet Tikkun, and the Arizal talked in Tikkun Shebet Tikkun. It doesn't. It's not that negeya. But the point could. I mean, it's very negeya. I mean, it's not. To understand whether it's Toyu Shebet Tikkun, it's beyond the scope. Negeya is the wrong word. It's beyond the scope of what we're discussing over here. But okay, so okay. Now, what would be the difference? So there's a couple of differences. There'd be a couple of differences if you say that. So first of all, we already said that okay. Let's go through. There's a lot of differences in the Torah of the Arizal and the Torah of the Ramak. Let's go through three of them, based on this, very very briefly, because it's the Oiris according to the Ramak. What's the purpose? How do Kalim? What are Kalim? Kalim are a method through which the Eibishter creates a world. The Eibishter creates a Metzias. But it's the Kalim itself are not that Metzias. Everything is Oir. Everything is Elikus. Everything is Elikah. Everything is Eibishter. There's a way of it comes through a Kali, which is also Eibishter, which makes it look like a certain perspective. In other words, the reason why the Eibishter needs Kalim, according to Eibishter, the reason why there are Kalim, the reason why there are Sviris, let's say, is because Sviris are Kalim. The reason why there are Sviris is because to the Ramak, yeah? Ramak is saying Sviris are Kalim. And the reason why the Kalim are like this is because in order to, as things progress along, in order to make things look in a certain way, so they take an image to a Kali. So it would be like shining a light through like putting water in a blue cup and water in a red cup, but the water looks blue and looks red. It's not blue, it's not red. It's the image that's coming out of it. So according to the Ramak, Kalim are not a Metzias, are not a real Metzias. Kalim are only the way that it's only a perspective. It's only a perception. It's only a perspective. It's not a real thing. Another thing, for example, according to the Arizal, everything is 10. Everything has spheres. There's no such thing as oiris. Oiris itself are comprised of spheres. according to Arizal. According to the Ramak, it's not. Spheres are only there in order to reveal, in order to create a world. According to the Ramak, the gvul, the limitation that exists, is only koyach gvul. The limitation of in Kalim is only going to be the possibility, because be'etzem it's all eleka, be'etzem it's all ebishter. There's no tzimtzum. There's no place where suddenly it can't. There's no place where it can't be infinite. It has to be infinite. It has to be able to be infinite. Norvos, it can also be limited. There could be taka limitation. Norvos, it depends on what perception and at what level. Okay, I think I've given I see it's already it's getting a bit long. So this is now Chassidus brings the Ramak, and not only the Sefer HaGershon, the Tzemach Tzedek brings Sefer HaGershon. Again, Chassidus is mismach. Chassidus focuses more on the Arizal, because the Arizal went and took what the Ramak's Torah, what the Ramak taught, and brought it to a whole new level. The Ramak explains that things are perspective. The Arizal goes and explains that everything is elikos and how this tzimtzum itself is elikos. The Arizal takes the whole nekuda and adds. It takes this whole where the Ramak speaks in a point and in a nekuda. The Arizal takes to a whole deeper level. And expands on it and expounds it and brings it and explains how that he was only talking in one small, relatively small place, but if you take it and based on what the Arizal is megala, it goes much further and much deeper. But this is this is more or less the this is more or less the overview. This is more or less the Indian. Where just to be masakim, we discussed the life a little bit, the Ramak, and we discussed that he was more or less the first one. There was one before him, but he was more or less the first one who took Kabbalah and systemized it. Aleph, basically was the first one who systemized it. Also, Menakala Lakovet, not only to make a system, not only the Svidus, to focus on the Svidus and how everything is comprised, also to make Menakala Lakovet for a beginner, for somebody who's learning Kabbalah, and to make it in a way that's accessible to everybody. He's also the first one to make one that translates it into Avodah B'Poyel. He was the first one to do that. He was the Rebbe of all the Mekubalim, and he was the Rebbe of the Arizal. He was the Rebbe of the Arizal. And after his Stalkus, the Arizal took that Torah and broadened it. By broadening it, Memela, there are differences. And when there are differences that we don't know, that are not resolved, that are not resolved, we haven't yet been given to understand how they're resolved. We paskin like the Arizal. So if you want to know what it is, it's like the Arizal. The Arizal, I should mention also that this was a very difficult day for the Arizal 450 years ago. Because his Rebbe was Nistalik, the Ramak, and also his son. His son was Nistalik on exactly the same day. He taught something that he wasn't supposed to teach, and his son was Nistalik. Chosam Yogin Aleinu, it's on Shmuel, and it's Chosam Yogin Aleinu, and he should hopefully this will help us a little bit in understanding Chassidus, and let's hope that we take the Torahs Abal Shem Tov and the Torahs HaKabbalah, the Torahs Hari, and the Torahs Ramak, and it's all Torahs Hashem, and be able to bring it into a Ma'aseh B'Poyel, bring it into a Hergish B'Leiv, as we've just discussed, into Havana, as we discussed in the previous few shiurim, in the Shittas Chabad. So it should come into the cup. The Mela will come into the heart. So we have to focus on bringing it into the cup. We should be able to understand it. We should follow the Ramak's footsteps. We should understand it. It should be done in a Azar Oifen of Menakala Lakovet. There is a lot of similarities between the Ramak and the Rambam in this Nakuda of understanding, other people to understand it, Pasha to understand it properly. And may his chus be making us as own Fashen Avoid Chassidus, and it should help us to have Avos Hashem and Yiras Hashem. With all of them, with Mashiach, Ba'agola Didan.